It's okay. No one's on it. It's fine. Good luck. Hey there, we're just gonna get set up here real quick. Not not the perfect circumstances. First of all, welcome. Welcome back to My Time to Fly. I'm just gonna take a few minutes tonight and kind of talk through what's in my flight bag. I want to really kind of explore what it takes to fly, like what the necessities you need in your flight bag are, and maybe a little bit more specifically, what I use above and beyond the normal flying gear to do some of the video work that I do. And I think you'll be pretty surprised. It's not incredibly elaborate. There's certainly a few must-haves to make good videos, but you know, it's pretty simple. So anyways, I want to talk through the things that I have in my flight bag, both the things that keep me safe, the things I have to have, or the things that, you know, just kind of go with the territory. And then, of course, some of that equipment that keeps me making videos. So if you have questions through this live, make sure you post them. I'll see if I can answer them. I'll do my best to answer them all. So first of all, I just want to shout out to my wife. When I first bought my Mooney, she bought this bag, and it's probably backwards to you guys, or she made this bag, I should say. So this is my flight bag. You know, it says "We love you" to the Mooney and back, which is pretty cool. You see a lot of people roll in with bags that are 50 pounds, 40 or 50 pounds, or they certainly look that way. I'm not about that. I am certainly much more of a minimalist when it comes to my flight bag. I try and keep as little in it as possible, keep it as concise as possible, and carry around as little as weight as possible. There's also some things that I use in the airplane that I keep in the airplane, and I'll talk about a few of those things, but they don't come home with me in the flight bag. They just stay in the airplane. So I guess let's just dig into it. I'll start with some of the things that are pretty common. Most everybody has. I'll talk about maybe just briefly what I have specifically and why I have them, or why I use what I use, and then we'll start digging into some of the more obscure stuff. So first and foremost in the flight bag is my headset. Everybody has their preference, right? There's a ton of people who love Bose headsets, and there's a ton of people who love cheap headsets, as inexpensive as you can get. I've always just been a David Clark fan, so I started with H10 13.4s and used those through all my flight training and flying when I was a lot younger. And now I've got this pair of DC-1Xs. I only have one pair of them. They are fantastic. If you're in the market for a headset, I would highly recommend the DC-1X. But they're expensive, just like any good A&R headset. You know, they're going to be $900 or north of $800 anyways. So I only have one headset. I do hope to kind of grow the collection of these so that the family can enjoy the benefits of them as well. So that comes home with me every time, most every time. I've been known to leave it in the airplane from time to time, but you know, that's an easy $800 for somebody to walk off with, even though we do keep the airport locked up fairly well. Next in the bag is getting to be a necessity in today's world. This is my choice of ADS-B receiver. I don't have any systems hardwired into the airplane, so we use a portable ADS-B receiver. This is one I chose by Dynon. It's called the Dynon DRX. It's really small, compact, which is a reason I like it. The other reason I really like it is the battery life is tremendous. It's really good, really long. So I use it for long battery life, and it's compact in nature. The one thing it doesn't have that I wish it did, and I shouldn't even wish that it did, because I'm just going to make it happen. It doesn't have a holder. Doesn't have a specifically. It doesn't have a suction cup mount to go on the window of the airplane. A lot of the other styles of ADS-B in receiver have that suction cup mount to go right onto the window of the airplane. So I'm not a design guy. I'm not a drawing guy. But I do happen to work somewhere where we have a few CNC machines and 3D printers. So I'm going to work to get a drawing made up to make a case for this so I can suction cup it to the window. So hopefully that works out well. I'll show that off sometime in an upcoming video. So headsets, ADS-B receiver, two of the must-haves for me. Of course, that ADS-B receiver is worthless if we don't have something to connect it to. So this is, in today's world, a necessity for most people. It's become a necessity for me, although I do my best to keep my eyes outside and only use it when necessary. But it is always running in the background. So this is an iPad mini, 4th generation. It is a cellular and, well, it is a cellular version. I think the only advantage there is that it has an integral, whatever, GPS. So the GPS can work without being hooked up to an external GPS source. But I really only ever use it with the Dynon. So I actually bought it used. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace from a guy locally, and it just happened to be the right one. I will probably upgrade this at some point to the newest model just to keep the speed there. But this works really well for me. Now, what I don't have in the bag, I mentioned this at the beginning because it's just bulky, too big and bulky to carry around, is I use the claw mount iPad holder. The yoke mount, the claw, I forget exactly who made it, honestly. But I use that holder. I bought it from Aircraft Spruce, I'm almost positive. And I take it off the yoke every time because my partner, who also flies the plane, doesn't use this setup. So I keep it on the yoke when I'm flying, but then I take it off and just chuck it in the back seat. So iPad mini, 4th generation with the, man, I can't believe I can't remember the name of that brand. But the yoke mount, anyways, that goes everywhere with me. All right, next, pretty classic here, the logbook. This is my original logbook. Many of you know I've been flying for a long time. I started back in 2003, but I'm still on the first logbook, which is a shame. I am also, maybe I should have did this. I'm way behind on this logbook. These right here, these iPads, and I didn't mention this, but my EFB of choice is FlyQ. These iPads and FlyQ have made me lazy with filling this out. I need to get in here and transfer that data to the written word. I just haven't done it yet. And unfortunately, it'll probably cause me to miss some of my flights. Some of the flights that I would have recorded, I probably won't be able to find. So moving on to the next couple things, just pens and pencils, right? Again, I'm very iPad heavy, so I don't really use those often, but kind of a must-have for anybody. A flashlight. I do keep a flashlight in pretty much all the time. I haven't used it a whole lot because I don't do a lot of night flying. I do want to do some more night flying, especially as summer is upon us. I think it would be pretty awesome to kind of skip the heat of the day and get out and do some more night flying. This is a Harbor Freight Special flashlight. It is not the one I want to have. I would much prefer a Streamlight or something much higher quality. Just haven't invested in it yet. We'll do that at some point. But this is what I use for now. A Quantum Harbor Freight Special flashlight. Haven't had much use for it. I use it probably more for pre-flight inspection than I have for actual flying ops. You know, right now it's bird season around here. Every bird, all the birds are sitting on eggs. So we really check up inside the cowl, make sure that we don't have any nesting situations. So that flashlight comes in handy. Also really looking for oil leaks, which we've got oil leaks. Pretty much everybody in general aviation does. But I at least make sure they're not getting any worse with that flashlight. All right, for anybody who's just joining, we're digging into the bag. We've talked about my logbook, iPad, of course, nice headset, David Clark DC-1X, highly recommended. My ADS-B receiver, my Dynon DRX, again, it's been really good for me. Highly recommended. There's a couple little things that bug you, but so far it's been awesome. A couple pens, pencils, and flashlight. I do try and keep things in bags a little bit to stay organized because it's easy for these next things to get away from us. So this is the power bag, I guess I would call it. This is kind of blending into some of the video work that I do. So this is a power bank for GoPro batteries. I only have one power bank for it. Probably will need more and more batteries. Sometimes I'll change batteries on the fly or in the middle of a flight. Another option is a portable battery pack. Typically on a long flight, which I haven't made enough of, but on a long flight, I'll have this hooked up directly to my iPad. The iPad will maintain 100% charge with this hooked up to it, and then once you see the charge start to deplete, then you know this battery pack is dead. I have this one, which was a present for my wife, which I confiscated. I probably need a couple more of them. They're worth their weight in gold. The one thing I don't have, well, there's a lot of things I don't have in the airplane. One thing I don't have that I really would like to put into the airplane is some 12-volt chargers to be able to plug cords in. So then that's what else is in this power bag is cords, lightning adapter, micro USB or mini USB. I don't know. There's too many USBs. I don't know what one it is, but a couple of the ones we use most often. I also have somewhere floating around here, I think maybe I left it in the airplane, is a USB-C cord, which is what plugs into the GoPro charger, and GoPros for that matter. So that's my power bag. If I don't put it in a bag, it ends up all over the bottom of my flight bag. I have one more bag in here. It's the camera bag. So I have a lot more attachments and different pieces and parts than this. I really don't use that many of them. But these are backups in case something breaks, or if I'm trying to put a camera somewhere that I haven't previously put it, that would all be in here. So it's just adapters and little devices to turn the cameras. And then on the back side, I have an adapter for my headset to be helicopter capable. I haven't had the chance to use that yet. I thought I was going to earlier this year, and I might still. I just have kind of lost the pursuit of it. I do want to get, I don't want to pay for helicopter time too much. It's crazy expensive, but I would like to get in a helicopter and do a little bit of video from one. So I bought that adapter so I could use my own headset. A couple more things. One, I really have to, both of these, I guess, next ones, these are safety items. I really have to thank the community for pushing me on the safety items. One, educating me, and two, being relentless in the pursuit of making me get this stuff. So first and foremost is a portable carbon monoxide detector, CO sensor. This is a SensorCon Inspector. I've actually only used it for one flight so far, and it seemed to work really well. We were measuring, in flight, we were measuring about 2 parts per million. On the ground, as I sat and kind of idled, waiting for the fuel pump to clear, it jumped up to, I don't know, 30 or so, 35, maybe even 40, which I know is well within immediate exposure limit. I think 40 is a 8-hour exposure limit. And it doesn't surprise me too much. While you're sitting there, that exhaust has nowhere to go except up, right? It's going to come up into the cabin quickly. But again, in flight, we were down into the 2 or 3 parts per million, which is very, very small. But this gives me a great deal of confidence versus that little placard on the on the dash that's supposed to turn colors. So thank you for pushing me to get this. About $150, $140 on Amazon, and it's been it seemed to have worked so far so good. Only one flight, but it's rugged. There's a lot, you can hang it or you can clip it to yourself. There's a lot of different ways to use it, so that's good. The next thing that we got is this pulse oximeter. I've only played around with it at home. Honestly, I haven't used it in the airplane yet, but it's in my flight bag now. This is another recommendation as I start flying a little higher. Now, my plane is not equipped with oxygen, so I'm not going super high or stupid high. But as many of you know, I do live in Michigan, and I will be planning to cross Lake Michigan more than once. I have a sister who lives over in Minnesota, and of course Oshkosh is across the lake, and it's a huge time saver to have confidence in crossing that lake. So I want to make sure I'm confident in going high. This is a good way to measure the oxygen saturation in your blood, and give you some confidence in going high. Really limiting the exposure, the amount of time that you will end up in the drink. Of course, the higher you go, the more glide distance that you've got. So, a couple safety devices: CO sensor, pulse oximeter. That's really it for the main part of the bag. The only other couple things I have are cameras. So I've got my camera that I typically mount to the windscreen and point back at me, or really in flight I can mount it anywhere and move it around inside of the cabin. Of course, I'm not reaching outside. I do have a window that I can open as long as I'm under 150 miles an hour. This happens to be a GoPro Hero 5 Black. It is the only camera I've ever bought, actually, and is kind of the staple. I've used it a ton, and it's been a great camera. So it's mounted to a little suction cup mount that is super robust. It doesn't fall off in flight. It does a really good job. I actually would like to buy some more of these. I think they're a little pricier than I thought. Again, I think I might be able to make some of them too. You know, a little bit of that government work at work. So that's the first one. There's, I don't know. Oh, there's actually a cord I want to talk about too. I do have one more camera. This is typically my camera that is positioned up behind me, overhead, and points out the windscreen. This is a GoPro Hero 7 Black. This is actually a on loan camera. I've got a couple that a good friend of mine and the flight school out at Sparta, where I fly out of, were gracious enough to let me borrow these. I do need to just bite the bullet and invest in some more cameras. But they were nice enough to let me borrow these. Once in a while they need them back, but most of the time I'm able to use them. So big shout out to Twin Comanche Flyers and the folks out at Sparta, Mark Lindsley and Jason, or not Mark Lindsley, that's an old name. Yeah, Jason and Mark, thank you for letting me use this. And then one of the most important pieces of gear, oh man, that's a bummer. One of the most important pieces of gear you can have is this N-Flight Cam cable. So this hooks into your GoPro, and then this splices into your headphone jack, and this picks up all your audio and sends it to the GoPro so you can record it. Without this, well, there's other ways to pick up audio. You can have an audio recorder in your headset. You can, there's a few ways. To me, this is the most seamless. I always use this on the camera that is pointing at me. More and more, I have a camera pointing at me, or at me and my passengers, and I always use this on that camera because then that audio is perfectly synced up. If you used it on the camera behind you, then you would have to try and sync it up to the audio or the video on your other camera, which is a pain if you use cheap software like I do. I think you can buy a lot more expensive software that helps kind of mitigate that. But for me, it's been a great cable. Hasn't failed me yet. So that's really everything that's in the bag. It's pretty straightforward. Again, it's nice to be able to keep everything in a small, compact bag. There is one more item that I'm using right now, actually, that I carry around with me, and it's actually a gimbal for the phone. A minute ago, you probably saw it fall. I think after a certain amount of what it thinks is idle time, it shuts off, and that's why it fell. So I do have a gimbal that I haven't used a ton. I'll use more and more, and it's on a little tripod stand sitting on the table. So that sticks around in the bag too. So as we kind of load this thing back up, we'll just go through it one more time if anybody didn't see this. So a couple GoPros, they pretty much go everywhere with me. They've got about somewhere between 5 and 7 hours of recording on them, or the ability to record 5 to 7 hours. The battery will not last that long. The battery lasts less than an hour, or about an hour. But they go everywhere with me. And so does this audio recording cable. So that goes in the side of the bag. And this is just a little rubber grommet that kind of keeps the cables from falling apart, coming apart from each other. Safety stuff, we've got CO sensor, pulse ox meter goes in there. We've got the this dumb thing. I'll try this one more time. You're gonna have to hustle. Maybe the batteries are dying. Camera gear, cords, cables, and miscellaneous mount stuff. Power gear, power pack, GoPro charger, other cables, specific power cables. iPad Mini 4, 4th gen. DC-1Xs. Buy them if you don't have them. If you're going between Bose and DC-1X, probably buy whatever one's cheapest at the time. These are great, just as good as the Bose. I have worn Bose once or twice. They're wonderful, but these are great. Dynon DRX. Dynon DRX, good ADS-B in receiver. And my good old-fashioned logbook. I think that's everything. I'll actually disconnect it for a second and show you the piece of kit that kept failing. So this is my gimbal. I use this if I'm like out at the airport taking shots of airplanes, or even if I'm riding passenger in the airplane. This is really good to stabilize video on a little tripod. Apparently the batteries aren't in such good shape, or I don't know. I'm not an expert at it. It's one of my newer toys. So anyways, that's what I've got in my bag. That's what I bring to the airport with me every time I go. It's served me pretty well so far. I will continue to expand my gear and try and make the best possible videos and bring the best content that I can for all of you. I really can't say thank you enough. Everybody out there's supported this channel. We've had a ton of growth lately, which has been fantastic, and it really motivates me just to do more and more. So we're going to keep growing this thing and keep getting some really cool video. I've got a couple very awesome planes, we'll say booked, or a couple guys that are going to give me some rides in airplanes that, trust me, you'll want to see them. They're incredible airplanes, and maybe even more incredible stories that go along with the airplanes. They really are some tremendous people. And I mentioned that to a friend of mine earlier this week, or maybe it was last Saturday. The community is so fantastic. We're so lucky to have all of the awesome people in the aviation community. So if you haven't already and you want to get out and fly, go out to the local airport and just sit around the FBO, get to know a few people, have some conversations. They will lead you down the right direction. They will get you in touch with the right people, and they will help you find your time to fly. So if you haven't already, go do that. My wife has encouraged me to get off of this so she can get her business going too. She needs the Wi-Fi. If you can't tell, we're kind of in between houses right now and living in a camper, so the Wi-Fi situation's a little touchy. So I'll get off of this and turn it over to her, and hope you all have a great night.